Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Stephen Dayan.
"2020 and 2021 are 2 years that are going to live in infamy. All of our worlds, all of our lives change completely. Personally, physically, professionally, and our business has changed as well. So I want to touch a little bit on these last 2 years and give you my observations and my predictions and see how this meshes with what happened in your worlds as well. Coronavirus hits, COVID, March 14th, 2020. I closed my office. I was actually talking to colleagues who were in Italy, and they were telling me, you're not going to believe what's happening. People are dying in the streets. They were giving me such scary stories. My friends back home were like, oh, it's not a big deal. Even in the US, we didn't think it was a big deal. But Europe was sounding the alarms. So I closed my office early. I'm like, this is really scary. Sent the staff home. Had lots and lots of time to think. I was so concerned. How am I going to afford to pay for my staff? What's going to happen to the patients? Is aesthetics over? What about my family? I was afraid to go in an elevator. We were wiping down groceries. When I look back to what we did 2 years ago, I can't believe it's the same virus that we're seeing today. And maybe it's not completely the same virus, but the amount of fear I had at that time, especially for my business, I thought aesthetics was over. And I had the opportunity to work with many think tanks and to work with a lot of other physicians trying to come together to decide what we're going to do. And the experts all had one prediction: doom and gloom. Aesthetics is over, retail is done. Nobody's going to care about looking better when the world is coming to an end. But then cases stabilized 2 months later. We were eager to get back to work. And with precautions, I opened the office, like many of my colleagues, and there were lines out the door. We got crazy busy, incredibly busy. And nobody could understand what was going on. Why were we getting so busy? Why did everybody want aesthetics? Well, the sexy answer was Zoom, because everyone's seeing themselves on Zoom. So I actually did a study in my research department. We looked at this. We did a case study. We interviewed 18-year-olds to 75-year-olds and asked them about Zoom. Prior to the pandemic, 16% spent more than an hour on Zoom a day. After March 19th, it was 84%. So more people were spending time on Zoom. Clearly, Zoom is where they were, and yes, they were looking at themselves. And we asked them, were you concerned about? And what part of your face were you most concerned about? And for those of you who understand optics and physics, you recognize that computer screens, telephones, they distort your face. They take the center of your face and they widen it. So people were most concerned about their nose, which I was happy to hear because my specialty is rhinoplasty. So 55% of people concerned about their nose. 40% of people who had never had a cosmetic treatment now were considering cosmetic treatments, and neurotoxins and fillers was the number one thing they were concerned about. So I thought that was really interesting. And now for years, we've been hearing how 95% of the people who are potential customers or potential seekers of aesthetic treatments were on the sidelines. Now they're off the sidelines. They're coming in and they're getting treatments. Maybe that's it. So maybe it's Zoom. Kind of a sexy answer. Kind of made a lot of sense. The media loved it. I did many quotes in many newspapers. But there was something else, too, that was not being discussed as much: work from home. If you could work from home, you could wear a mask. No one was looking at you. You could hide out. You had affordable downtime because you were sitting at home. What else were you doing? And, of course, you had extra money, too, and you can invest into yourself after the binge. So, yes, we all drank too much. Alcohol was through the roof. I think I was drinking wine every night with friends. And after we all got sick of that, we got our Peloton bikes, and then we got started investing into ourselves. So these were some of the things that we could do because we were also saving money. We weren't going to bar mitzvahs. We weren't going to weddings. We weren't going on vacation. Most Americans were saving more money than they thought, especially people in the more influential demographics. So now they had money. And then there was this little curious concept, which many of you who know me know that I write a lot about: the emotional impact of aesthetic medicine. Mood. Mood is one of, if not, in my opinion, the most important motivator that patients come into my office. So we did a clinical trial. The pandemic's over. My patients who hadn't gotten Botox for 3 months straight, who are my regular patients, we said, okay, come on in. you haven't had in a while, and let's do a study. We split them up. Half the group got saline, half the group got Botox, and then we checked their moods and their happiness levels. And those patients who got the neurotoxin, got the Botox, their moods went through the roof, statistically significant increase in happiness in those patients. The patients who got saline, no increase in mood, no increased happiness. We crossed them over. They got the Botox. Mood went up too. Mood is not talked about, but it's a huge influencer in getting our patients to undergo cosmetic treatments. It's a popularity. How about the lipstick effect? We all know, especially those of you who study business and economics, that during the Great Depression, lipstick sales went up. Leonard Lauder so eloquently talked about it as well. So my number one prediction is that aesthetics does well in a crisis, and we missed this. We were so concerned that we were going to do worse. Lo and behold, we were doing better. People wanted to feel good about themselves. Yes, they can go buy lipstick, but they can also buy some Botox or Dysport or Xeomin or Jeuveau. Don't want to leave anyone out. So a little bit of everything they bought, but aesthetic procedures were popular. What happened to my practice? Well, my practice, like everyone else's, I was a hero, like everyone else. 83% increase in gross revenue from the pandemic year, 45% from the pre-pandemic year. My practice was busier than it's ever been. I had my best year ever, and I'm actually embarrassed to say it. I'd be with friends, I'd be like, I don't want to tell you guys, but I had my best year ever. It was kind of nice that came along too, at a time when we really needed it. So I raised prices. The demand was through the roof. I raised prices, and people were paying it. They had no problem paying it. In fact, I think I got busier the more I raised prices. So what is the future? Well, pretty much everyone's predicting that yes, compound annual growth rate of 10% per year. My second prediction, post-COVID boom will continue. I think we're in for it. I think that we took a lot of patients off the sidelines. They're now in. They want to get the treatments. We have this new virtual world where people are at home, so I expect this COVID boom to continue on. Now, what about post-COVID patient? How is a post-COVID patient different than the pre-COVID patient? Really, they're the same as before. They want the same four things. They want natural results, they want no pain, they want no downtime, and they want it for free. That's never changed. And that continues on. Every time I do consulting with a company, what do the patients want? These are the four things they want. Now go. Get as close to it as you can. So every time we do a promotion from my office, I talk with my marketing team. I'm like, are we covering these four aspects? Because those are the questions the patients have. But something has changed, and that's with segmenting the markets. That's why I really enjoyed the talk right before mine. Traditional demographics, I don't really buy it anymore. Gender, age, geography, ethnicity, income, education. It's a little bit simplistic for me. That's not what it is today, in my opinion. I think that there's psychographics and motivators. I look for my patients as individuals. Some of them want to see a doctor. Some of them want to see a nurse. Some of them want to see a PA. Some of them want an older doctor. Some of them want a younger doctor. Some of them want a female. Some want a male. Some want to be treated in med spa. Some want to be treated in the clinic. They're very different patients. I brought on a partner, or a young physician, 2 years ago during the pandemic. He's 5 years out. If you guys haven't followed him on TikTok, actually, maybe you shouldn't follow him on TikTok. He's a little bit out there. He's crazy. He's dancing around. He's doing all these incredible things on TikTok. He's getting 130 consults a week. A week. He is so busy, and the patients come in, they're like, oh my gosh, Dr. Coughlin, I really love the way you dance. I'm like, love the way you dance? I'm like, don't people come to you because the way you do procedures, how good you are, your before and afters? No. Patients want to connect to us based on who we are. It's completely different than it was in the past. His average patient is 27, mine's 47. They never cross over. And here's the interesting thing. We both are facial plastic surgeons. And at first I was a little concerned. I'm like, I really want a dermatologist. I think that will round me out, my practice a little bit better. But I was wrong. I don't need a dermatologist. And I shouldn't be afraid of a facial plastic surgeon. What I really needed was someone who wasn't me. Someone who is completely different, who appealed to a different market. He appeals to such a different market than I do. Our patients don't cross over. In my office, I have an RN, I have a PA, I have him, I have a dermatologist now. We all are completely different appeals, different patients, and our patients never cross over. So I have to go targeted in on the psychographics and the motivators of these individual patients. It's not just on their gender, their age, or how much money they make. So I say number 3 prediction, adapt to the archetypes and the psychographics, not the demographics. Social media, as I just mentioned before, this is big. 80% of doctors now are on social media. You have to be. 90% of consumers between the age of 18 and 24 believe everything they read on social media. That's kind of scary, isn't it? Or it could be helpful if you want to influence people. And how high your ranking is, Clark Shirley wrote this paper, 2019 in ASJ Journal. He showed that your ranking on Google is more dependent on how many followers you have than your pedigree, than where you went to med school, where you went to residency, your board certification. It doesn't matter. Never in the history of humanity, ever, looking back over 3,000 to 5,000 years, has one person been able to reach so many people so fast, so easily, for so little. It's really unbelievable when you think about that. Social media has completely revolutionized aesthetic medicine, and I'm going to argue, not just aesthetic medicine, all of business. If you are not in social media, your business will not expand or grow as fast as it can. You've got to master this, and it's not so easy. It's not as simple as everyone thinks, oh, just get on social media, you're going to get busy. No, it's completely the opposite. You've got to be so authentic and so creative, and that is the hard part. That's the hard part. Everyone thinks it's simple. It's not simple. Creative and authenticity. And it's got to be you. So if it's your product, it's got to be your product. It can't be someone else's. This is where I struggle with outsourcing sometimes, because sometimes when you outsource it, the companies that we outsource to don't understand it as well as I understand my own product. Consolidation. Private equity. This is exciting. It's growing fast. And I have an announcement to make myself. As of 6:55 a.m. this morning, I just joined a group, MedSpa Partners, 24 clinics in Canada. I'm now the 25th clinic. They're coming into the U.S., and I just joined. So I just joined the bandwagon. Dominic Mazzoni is here. He's the CEO of MedSpa Partners. Thank you, Dominic, wherever you're sitting, for bringing me on board. So yeah, I'm too joining in on with the consolidated groups. 70% of doctors today are employed. My fellows and my residents, they're not thinking about going off on their own. They come in already looking for jobs. This is certainly the future of aesthetic medicine. I've been running a clinic for 23 years. The back office is the most difficult part. Managing the labor, the regulations, all the different day-to-day issues is what becomes exhausting. I can't be a doctor. I can't do what I do best. So now I'm so happy to have MedSpa Partners that's backing me. They're going to take care of all that, and I can do what I do best. So I'll be clinical director for the U.S. I look forward to talking to you more about that. So consolidated groups, they definitely think differently. For companies, they're going to question large capital equipments. In the past, I would meet with the rep, and they'd say, Dr. Dayan, you got to buy our device, and they get me all excited about it. I would do emotional buys. It's not like that. Buys aren't going to be emotional anymore. They're going to question the ROIs. Inventory management is going to be managed better. So practices are going to change. If you're reaching out to practices, it's going to change in the future. This is going to dominate the landscape, whether it's aesthetic medicine or all of medicine. It's coming. It's already here, but expect to see it in aesthetic medicine next. Along those rounds, med spas, they're going to double to triple in the next 9 years. This is growing so fast, and we have more and more providers now who are no longer physicians. The majority of injectors today are not physicians. They're nurse practitioners and PAs. Problem is we have a training crisis. And you're seeing this. Just last year, article came out in Aesthetic Plastic Surgery Journal. Someone died from an injection of filler in the nose by an unlicensed practitioner. It was in China. Unlicensed practitioner using 25-gauge cannula. Fatal hemorrhage. Stroke from a filler. Fillers are not being taught the best way we can. We're not giving the best training. We're not teaching best practices. We're basing it on old paradigms, old formulas, FDA trials, which is not what we do in clinical practice. Medical training is inadequate today. It's got to get better if we want to do better. And virtual meetings are missing the mark when it comes to training, in my opinion. So will we go back to congresses? For 2 years, we all sat at home. Travel it's not so simple to go to congresses. People got used to sitting at home. So to go to a congress, there's got to be a compelling reason. Certainly, this is one of the compelling reasons. Socializing, networking. We all know that we learn more in the back of the room than we do from the front of the room. I think we need to celebrate that now moving forward in our aesthetic meetings, in our conferences. Take the opportunity to network with others. Learn some of the innuendos from people in the back of the room. The quality education has got to be high. The innovation has got to be there. Every single time you teach, there's got to be something innovative, or else there's no reason to go. It's got to be interactive. The audience has to participate, and it's got to be incredibly entertaining. We have to entertain today. I teach undergrad. I taught undergrad at the university for 15 years. I walk in, my students, I'm sitting there looking at the room. They pull out their computers. They're looking at their computers. And at first, I'm like, what? Why are they looking at their computers? I'm speaking to them. I'm teaching. They were more interested in what's going on their computers than me, I thought. No, doctor, we're taking notes. But I quickly learned that it was my job to entertain them. I had to capture their attention because they weren't going to listen to me unless I did. As a speaker, that's part of our jobs as well, because the doctor types have changed. Doctor types have changed. New generation of physicians. I was interviewing a dermatologist. I wanted to hire him. So he comes in, he's like, okay, Dr. Dayan, I really want to work with you. You have such a great practice. I'm super excited, but these are what I want. I'm going to work 3.5 days a week. I want a $500,000 starting salary. I want 3 lasers. I want 8 weeks of downtime so I can have my work-life balance. Oh, yeah, and really what's most important to me is I want to be famous. I'm like, you want to be famous? What does that mean? Well, I want to speak all around the world like you do. I want to travel and go to conferences. I'm like, you can't just be famous. You've got to come up with something, some creative insight. And it doesn't happen 3 days a week. But that's this model. That's this generation. So they want to be famous. They're definitely, if you're going to appeal to healthcare providers or physicians, it's going to have to change. This is the same with me and my clinic. Need to show you care. What can I do for you? How can I make your job better? Senior leadership has to be available. Now we do something in my office called Coffee Talk. We spend 5 minutes with each employee, with a senior executive leader. Transparency, especially if there's an issue with a product or device. If you hide it, people quickly get to know it and they don't trust you anymore. Co-marketing and build the brand. Build the market. These are things that are interested to the future of aesthetic medicine. And it's continuing to grow. I think non-surgical will continue to grow. In particular, off-the-face body treatments are most popular in my office right now. 90% satisfaction rate is the key. What I mean by that is that you have to have 90% of your patients happy. If you're not reaching 90%, the device doesn't work. How do you determine that? 4 variables. When Thermage first came out, I was offering it in my practice. Many of you remember Thermage. $4,500 for a facelift, non-surgical facelift, me doing it as a surgeon. My satisfaction rate was so low, it was 60%. My patients were unhappy. I couldn't sustain offering that treatment because I had 40% of my patients unhappy. How am I going to keep them happy? Cost me money. So I now returned, and I have it being done by my nurse estheticians, half the price, 3 treatments, they're happy, 90% satisfaction rate. So I can alter my parameters in order to reach that satisfaction rate. Regenerative medicine, biostimulation, this is another big growth factor in aesthetic medicine. Fillers, anti-aging, all we're seeing biostimulation with these different products. Nutrition and exosomes. Wow, this is really interesting. We're doing regenerative medicine panels at all the meetings that I direct. This is one of the hottest areas. And Alyssa Lask, one of the directors of this meeting at Rion, that's an exciting product. We're about to start a study with them. Psychoaesthetic medicine, outcomes based on well-being, no longer just on PROs. We're going to be looking at, no longer just clinical results. It's now going to be PROs. The FDA is requiring this now. They want to see patient-reported outcomes as a co-primary endpoint. Expect to also see OROs, observer-reported outcomes. I think that's the next step. What kind of results do we get? What kind of impressions do these patients make? So number 9, psychosocial impact will have a bigger influence as we move forward. And the greatest impacting factor of my 10 predictions for the coming year is defining what patients want. It's hard. Patients like the way they look in a selfie. We did a study. We asked them to look at themselves. They said, yes, I look best in this picture, a filtered selfie of myself. Then we showed other people. We said, which picture looks best? And everyone said, the natural, the standard photo. That's what looks best on them. We like the standard photo. We don't like the one of them as a selfie. So we like ourselves in a selfie. And the beauty filter is coming now. For those of you who have young kids, you might know about this. They take a picture of themselves. It automatically filters them to how they want to look. Do we have smart mirrors coming? Can you imagine getting up in the morning? I don't feel like brushing my hair. You look at your mirror, it's a smart mirror, gives you the perfect version of yourself. Or how about the beauty contact? You can put a contact in your eye and see everyone through rose-colored glasses. That's the most perfect version of them. So virtual reality and the metaverse is coming. I think we all have to recognize that this is maybe our biggest threat. I don't see it coming this year, but it's definitely coming fast. Sooner or later, we may all be avatars. Are you going to be ready for that? So my top 10 predictions in conclusion: aesthetics always does well in a crisis. Number 2, the post-COVID boom will continue. Number 3, archetypes and psychographics over demographics. Number 4, social media is critical if you want to grow your business. Number 5, consolidation and private equity is going to dominate the aesthetic landscape quickly and fast. Number 6, med spas and non-MDs are becoming the majority of providers. Number 7, medical education will have to adapt and will have to change if we want to properly educate the future. Number 8, appealing to healthcare providers is going to change the way you appeal to them. Number 9, psychoaesthetics and medicine, PROs, OROs. This is going to be our new outcomes. It's not going to just be clinical outcomes. It's not going to be wrinkle removal. It's going to be mind improvement. And number 10, virtual reality in the metaverse is coming fast and will alter patients' desires. So those are my top 10 predictions. I'm interested to hear what all of yours would be as well.